go to our next presenter, which is Dr. Valeria Khachatyryan from Russia, Ph.D. in History, Senior Researcher, Institute of General History and Russian Academy of Sciences. The presentation will be about the problem of the future in modern science and the formation of integral futurology. Please go ahead.
Добрый вечер.
Good day, everybody. My presentation is about the problems of the future, which has increased interest in the scientific circles and mass information circles and people's consciousness. The future became the subject of discussions, and this is, first of all, it is explained by the complex transformational period that the humanity stepped into. The rhythm of the subjects increase exponentially. And then the consequences of that transformation of the social reality is not obvious. So the many global problems and
разрушается наиболее характерное для человека представление о том, что завтра будет похоже на сегодня. Вполне естественно, что в этой сложной ситуации очень востребованной является футурология или futures studies.
A relatively young science that originated in the 60s of the 20th century. Before the futurology is long-term forecasting, so creates scenarios of the future of all mankind, and also it must determine the nature and results of the future changes, prepare the individual and society for them. It gives the new guidelines and goals for the social activities, develop recommendations on how to avoid global risks and create a good future. To what extent, if future science, as it is right now, capable of accomplishing these objectives? Or in what words, to what extent are predictions and recommendations accurate and reasonable? It is difficult. Over the 60 years of its existence, futurology has undoubtedly achieved significant success. It has established itself as a science and became a part of social disciplines, developed its own research itself as a science. It became part of social disciplines. It was futurists who were first in the 70s of the last century that drew the attention of the world community to global problems, the reports to the Club of Rome. But nevertheless, futurology has not yet achieved a high prestige, both in scientific circles and the mass of consciousness. The attitude toward it remains very skeptical. What is the reason for that? Forecasts and warning about global problems, environmental and man-made disasters have long been made, but this did not in the last change the situation of growing global crisis. The limits of growth, the author of which proposed to sharply reduce production and consumption, especially in prosperous countries, change the way of life and the system of values. This and many other similar recommendations designed to stop the development of crisis processes, but requiring great efforts and revolutionary transformations were not implemented. Themselves, pessimistic forecast warning cause most often a negative reaction.
Вот такие пессимистические прогнозы, предупреждения вызывают чаще всего негативную реакцию отторжения.
On the other hand, More optimistic forecast predictions that described in detail the futures and advantages of a new type of society, which are called post-industrial, informational, late modernity, etc., were not confirmed or were not particularly confirmed, partially confirmed.
Связанные с ведущей ролью науки, внедрением информационных технологий, исправить недостатки общества второй волны, то есть общества индустриального. Даже компьютерное математическое моделирование, которое позволяет вводить много переменных, обрабатывать огромное количество
That's forecast of the famous economist and sociologist Galbraith, who is in book of Society of Abundance, predicted the scientific and technological progress would lead to universal prosperity did not come true. Many ideas,
любые прогнозы, как выяснилось, могут не реализоваться из-за так называемых диких карт,
wild cards, unpredictable, they're extremely rare and unlikely events, which nevertheless have a great impact.
Могут радикально изменить всю жизнь
And it
общества.
could change the whole life of the society. Equally important are weak signals, social processes and structures located on the periphery of society. But over time, they can push back trends that we consider to be leading and suddenly come to the fore.
И неожиданно выйти на первый план.
However, this may not happen. For example, a weak signal may not be an indicator of the future, but just a slight deviation. The crisis of long-term forecasting, especially techno-optimistic forecasting, serves as the impetus for the development of a new, very fruitful approaches to studying the future. In modern future studies, ideas have emerged that, from my point of view, are great, heuristic, and practical value. First of all, it is the idea that man is capable of constructing the desired future. The future should not be predicted but created. This is the motto of many futurologists who rely on the concept of constructivism by sociologists Luckman and Berger, and emphasize the role of transforming human society. Nowadays, this idea is supported and given a theoretical foundation and synergies. In the air, bifurcations and polyfurcations, for example, branching paths of development of complex systems of particular importance are fluctuations, small fluctuations which are determined in social systems by actions, life goals, and values of individuals. In this regard, great importance is attached to the images of the future, our ideas about the future, and are capable of influencing, to one degree or another, the future itself, creating a feedback, for example, decreasing or increasing the likelihood of a particular scenario. This is explained by the fact that the image of the future, even if the individual is not aware of it, influences his behavior, this fluctuation that I mentioned before. The problem, however, is that the number of alternative scenarios is very large. Civilization wars, by Huntington, a global catastrophe that will return humanity to the primitive level, global totalitarian society, or liberal networked world. Technocratic utopias, the resentment of people to resettlement of people to other planets, transhumanistic scenario of human improvement through biotechnology and many others. There are many others that I haven't mentioned. According to what is the desired future we need to construct, I would like to emphasize that the variety of images of the future that exist in the same time indicates the instability of society, in confusion before the coming changes. But most importantly, it's unclear what kind of desired future should be designed. It should be emphasized that is a variety of probable scenarios of the future are the impossibility of determining which of them is being realized. The principal position of many modern futures. This position makes the idea of constructing the desired future impractical because there are too many models that do not agree with each other, and sharply reduces the predictive capabilities of future studies, which from my point of view indicates another crisis of this science, which never came to the level of planning for the future. It obvious that modernizations is required, first of all, of the theoretical and methodological base of futurology. This task can be fulfilled by a new emerging integral approach, which is being developed in philosophy, including in the works of Ashlag and Michael Lightman, in systemology, synergetics, global evolutionism, co-evolution theory. What are the features and advantages of this approach, which open a new stage of the development of futurology? The problem of the future is considered in the broadest possible context, the general picture of the universe, its universal laws and global evolution, of which social evolution is a part. Only the study of the principles of functioning and development of natural and social systems make it possible to give grounded scenarios of the future. Integral futurology, while sharing in general the idea of possibility of constructing the desired future, nevertheless believes that these possibilities are by no means limitless. Let us turn to the well-known synergetics, who believe that not all scenarios can be realized, but only those that correspond to the direction of the internal development of the social system, its predetermined capabilities. Therefore, any voluntaristic attempts at design or forecasting that do not take this factor into account are doomed to failure. What is the predetermined direction of the development of society? It is determined by integrity, interpretation, inter-inclusion, mutual consistency, and self-similarity of all the elements that make up the system. This fundamental principle of the structure of the universe, organization and evolution of all its subsystems, is revealed by post-non-classic science. Thus, it can be said that, with certain reservations, that the evolution of natural and social systems is purposeful and determined by their own internal properties, the integrality regionally contained in them, which is revealed in the course of development. The term evolution accordingly approaches its original meaning unfolding, although it's not reduced to it.
Термин эволюция в интегральном подходе в каком-то плане приближается к его первоначальному значению.
The idea of predestination is associated with the idea that present is determined not only by the past, but also by the future, is completed from the future thanks to structures, attractors. It's a very popular idea these days and researched by synergetics. The structure attractor is the global of the self-development of the things. its path to itself. Hence, the feeling that the process of evolution unfolds as if according to the program originally laid down. Achieving the state of integrality that can be considered as the main goal of the development of society. Therefore, integral futurology, in contrast to the future studies, puts forward not much, but only one scenario of the future. The transformation of mankind to a global integral society that means the interests of all mankind and preserves unity with all the richness of the diversity of nations. In concluding my report, I want to note that integral futurology is focused on not only on theory, but also on practice. I offer clear recommendations on how to construct an integral future. Thank you.
Я закончила. Спасибо.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. I don't think we have too much time for questions, but we can take one question if someone has a question for the professor. Yes, Professor Efraim.
Well, I'll speak in Russian.
Valeria, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I would like to ask you, well, the Russian futurologians such as Panov, Khachatyryan, and such, they write about singularity that will come by 40s, and demographic singularity, technological singularity, and many others. What do you think in the frame of integral paradigm that you described, if there's a solution to all of that, to all those problems? Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I assume that idea of singularity, it's in essence once more of many scenarios that I already described before, like scenario of catastrophe, global catastrophe. I assume that in the frame of not only integral approach, but also just a description of the development of the system, like evolution, the global evolution. We talk about complexity and constant complexity of the level of those systems. So to speak about singularity is the same as the new level of existence of our system, social system, global system, in which awaits us. I don't think we can jump over this level to the level of singularity. In all the systems, as far as I know, even in the natural systems, those things don't happen. Humans jump. So one of the possible scenarios.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We do have a question from YouTube from Ulya Grekova. Why did evolution give man the ability to realize himself, but did not give the mind to understand why we need it?
Sorry. Will you repeat the question once more, please?
Yes. Why did evolution give man the ability to realize himself, but did not give the mind to understand why we need it?
If possible, I answer in Russian, okay? Считается, что в науке
It
считается,
is
что эволюция,
thought
в
that
принципе,
evolution
идет,
in
она
principle
действительно
go
связана с развитием
related to the development
нашего
of our
сознания.
consciousness.
Когнитивности это
Communi-
касается не только
It's not
человека,
only
это
for the
касается и
people,
глобальной
mankind, but
эволюции
also for the
тоже.
global evolution itself.
Почему у
Why
нас,
do we
почему мы, так сказать, не
why do
осознаем?
we
Я полагаю,
we're
что,
not
во-первых, это
conscious
осознание
of
на
this
самом
process?
деле, оно уже
Because I
присутствует.
think that conscious
Я не
process
думаю, что
already is already in
ситуация
place.
так
I don't
пессимистично
think that the
выглядит, что мы
situation
этого не
looks
осознаем,
so
мы это осознаем
pessimistic.
как
I
раз.
think we are conscious of
И
that.
все
And
события,
all
которые
the
сейчас происходят,
events
они
that
просто
happening right
заставляют нас
now,
это осознать,
they force us to realize that.
как мне
And that's
представляется.
what I think.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Khachatyryan.